This week in comic books, we get from DC City Boy. We get plot points, origin points, and pre-origin points, all wrapped up into one comic book. But was it any good? We'll talk about it. In the land of Marvel, even villains like Doc Ock and Amazing Spider-Man cannot get past this cute effect that's going on right now. We'll talk about that. And in Independence, I have a load of Independence this week, but more especially, I have the last issue of Vanish and final thoughts on that, how it ended, along with the other Independence that I picked up. But first, check this out. Hey weirdos, do you ever find it hard to get going in the morning? Do you need a swift kick in the butt to get your day started? I find a good cup of coffee helps me supercharge my evil genius ways and motivates my villainy. Coffee Brand Coffee is the perfect start to my dastardly day. They offer multiple roast and flavors, teas and cocos, while you sit by the fire and watch all your enemies burn. Go to Coffee Brand Coffee today and use promo code POCANJOE and save 10%. Coffee Brand Coffee. No gimmicks, just coffee. What's going on, you wonderful weirdos? Welcome back to the comic book review channel. I'm your host, Pocan as always. I'm a middle-aged man that likes to read comic books and then turn around and take notes of them because I overthink just about everything. So let's just jump into this week. For as far as the big two goes, it was relatively small. I only got one of each, only out of guilt. So we'll start off with DC and the current run of City Boy. This is issue number 2. We get a pre-origin story where we find out that he was an abandoned child, right? We got to have that heartfelt thing to make us sad about the hero, 'cause that's comic book writing now. Whatever. But we also learn more about his origin and how his powers work. But still, the defining factor here is that they keep saying like the essence of the city, whatever that means. We know he can take the power to other cities. So is it that city's essence going with him, or does each city have its own vibe and feel? I'm not really sure. It doesn't explain it very well. However, he was recaptured by the scientist that gave him these powers, who's kind of just the typical, stereotypical mad scientist type. And that's where we kind of got dumped off here. Most of the story was, again, focusing on his origin, and then like how strong his powers are. And then, of course, what's he going to do with all this power? We need some inspiration. Bam, Superman shows up out of nowhere and gives him one of his little quip, for the love of all type of speeches. I don't know, man. This thing's getting a little weird for me. I thought it would be kind of cool. I like this kind of finding things, but come to find out he can take like all the trash and make like a huge monster out of it. And I'm just like, it was cool when it was street level. Now you're just overpowering this character. So I'm not sure. I'll probably pick up a couple of more. But yeah, I'm not sure how much more longer City Boy will last. So moving on to Marvel, because that was the only DC I picked up. We get Amazing Spider-Man number 28. And this the big hubbubaloo about this is Doc Ock's new tentacles. This is something called the cute effect. So each ring of this particular tentacle, all of them, each ring that goes around it forms the entire thing, are all collected by this kind of gel thing, and they all look like little individual robots that can be kicked together. Gives them a real cute effect to them to kind of make whimsy happen. This is something that happens a lot, unfortunately. The last few years, you see it a lot. A good example of this would be The Mandalorian, right? The only purpose Baby Yoda is in it, or Gogurt, or Guru, or whatever his name is because it's a cute merchandising aspect of it, right? And it works if you're going to merchandise it. But in this case, it really kind of doesn't work that well. And also, they're way overpowered, too. Just technical woo-woo, out the yin-yang. It is just ridiculous. But as far as Reed goes, I do love the art in this. It feels like legit comic book art, right? Craven makes an appearance in this. His role is very minuscule at best. But yeah, this whole thing right here, just, oh, I'm a villain, but look at my cute arms. Is that what we're going? I guess that's what we're going with now. Gold Goblin makes an appearance in here too. I'm just kind of over that. If you've seen any episode where I reviewed a Spider-Man book, I'm just kind of just done over the goblin thing. It's like every color has been a goblin. That's too much goblin. So that's all my main two this week, believe it or not. I didn't pick up the Avengers because that just was an obvious, comparison story. You got the doppelgangers of the Avengers, right? And they're just fighting Avengers of fighting Avengers, right? B League, A League, Avengers fighting Avengers. And I just didn't find that overly important, and I pretty much just banded X-Men. I'm finding this is going to slowly turn into an independent channel. So moving on with that aspect, let's talk about independence this week. We got R.I.G.T project. So obviously this is an acronym. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's kind of a hint to the story. Basically, scientist comes up with a computer program that can bring to life a superhero, and there's a kid who added some code to it, and he can kind of control the superhero with like a controller. I'm not going to make any jokes about a mini sub. Not going to do it. It's the same kind of controller though. That didn't. Anyway, so this is just kind of your basic tropey type of comic book. It doesn't really get into anything too deep in it. A government's bad, or an agency in the government's bad. Scientists just wanted some research money, grant money. They wanted the thing. And then there's two other stories in there where we get to see kind of how our hero interacts with the real world with a wrestling match and then some other nonsense in it. For the most part, it was okay. If you like tropey, gimmicky, yeah, this is your thing. But if you're more edgy or hard, comic book reader, it's just going to come off like a kid's story. So next, Vanish. First off, that cover. Oh, that cover. That is pretty cool. Let's just bask in that for a second. Okay, so as I've explained throughout this whole series, this is kind of just a gritty Harry Potter turns into an adult, and he's addicted to drugs and everything else. And the lines between reality and is this thing fake kind of get blurred in and out. And this is when we establish that it is real, giving more backstory to where this magical land is that they all come from, and kind of what happened to some of the other kids that were there. Putting one kid into a wheelchair at one point. It's a very brutal school that was just building soldiers. Like it was not like Hogwarts. It was more like Marine Corps boot camp for wizardry kids. That's the best I can come up with. But yeah, and then the trauma from that as they become adults. And then eventually the separation of our hero Vanish and what he's going to become into, which is kind of this gray character, right? He's not good, he's not bad. There's a lot of issues there. We can even say anti-hero to some degree, but I think he's going to be doing some bad things if this thing gets picked up for another run, which we do. Plus, they kind of they didn't hit. They straight up showed you in the last scene in this, he has a child with his girlfriend that he does not know about. So yeah, and she's not going to let him back into life because adulting's hard and addiction's even worse. So yeah, crazy. I have absolutely enjoyed this book. I really hope they move on and do a volume 2. I'll pick up and read every issue of that too. If you read Vanish, definitely let me know down below. What did you think of the whole run, or if you just picked up a couple issues of it? Really, I don't hear anybody talking about this comic book, so I'm wondering if it's just if I'm just a lone guy out there reading it myself. I hope that's not it. All right, next. So here's something weird. When your friends are usually into something, like you have this kind of generic thing, right? Like we say comic books here in our little community, right? We all love comic books. And then you start finding out that it can get very pigeonholed very quick, little niched out groups here and there. And a lot of friends and a lot of people I know out there are huge Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right? So I read the one with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers. Super easy to pick up, super easy to understand the kind of concept of these Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I am not a fan. It was not something I grew up with. So I was like, you know what? Let me read just a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger storyline. So I picked up Power Rangers Unlimited #1, thinking, hey, it's a #1. I can jump right into this and pick it right up. And man, I'm going to tell you right now, I couldn't have been more wrong. I am completely lost in this thing. There's one guy, I thought it was a good guy from what I've seen from memes and stuff, but he's actually a bad guy. His face is all scored. This takes place in some sort of dystopian future where everything's just run down because there's these lava monsters, zombie type creatures running around that apparently were something else at one point. There's a connect. In other words, they were human at one point, or whatever passes as human in this universe. Um, yeah, and then there was something about coins and belts, and I was lost. Like, I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not talking junk about it, right? I'm legitimately like, well, who's this guy? Like, this doesn't look like the ones that I kind of vaguely have seen, heard about. Um, yeah, I can't even review it. Like, it read well. The art's really cool in it, but there's words in there I don't like. A couple of them, I'm not even gonna lie. I looked up and they're not in the dictionary. So apparently, it's part of the woo-woo universe that they have there. So I can't review it. This is the first comic book where I'm like, I I don't have enough background knowledge to review it. So we're going to move on to the next one. Next, we got Schlubs. If you don't know what a Schlub is, a Schlub, the term Schlub. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. This is an Ashcan preview of a comic book that's coming out, and it's a really cool concept. And basically, it's called Schlub. Schlub, if you don't know what the term Schlub means, Schlub is a talentless, boorish, unattractive person, right? And our particular Schlub in here is a dentist who's a little bitter. Like he wants that just that one opportunity, right? You've seen these people before. If I just had this one opportunity happen to me, I'd take advantage of it. And I'd be the greatest, right? That's kind of his mentality in this, not realizing that kind of stuff is up to you and me and everybody else. If we want to do something, right, we have to go out there and do it. We can't have the opportunity land in our lap. Well, in this case, the opportunity landed in his lap where he gets to switch bodies with a superhero. And the expectation is hey, I need you. Why the dentist is, now that they've switched bodies, he needs to be the hero for a little bit, and obviously he's going to do what most schlubs would do. He's going to take advantage of the situation to better himself, at least in issue 1. Maybe going into issue 2 or whatever, maybe we'll watch the growth of a hero in this, from being a bitter, angry, talentless schlub to a hero. I think that would be a cool concept. But in this particular one, it does exactly what you would expect, right? It's kind of like, I don't know how to describe this book. You know what? Actually, I do. So you're walking out of a store or something, right? And there's a gentleman or a lady there, and they want $20 from you. It's like, hey, can I borrow $20? I'm really hungry, right? And you want to give them the $20, right? But there's always a stipulation, right? You're not going to do drugs or drink with this. You're like legit going to eat and like put some nutrients in you, right? And they're like, yeah, this is the opportunity I've been looking for. And they go inside or go do the drugs or drink, right? This is kind of the schlub that we're talking about here. So yeah, I like this, and thank you to my comic book store for allowing me to get this preview ash can. I like this. I do want to read more of this. I think it would be interesting. Last but not least, another thing that confused me this week, Starfinder. So I read this, and it's really hard to follow what's going on in this story because they love to kind of do this kind of jump thing. Like 1 minute, you got your hero sitting around a table, and one of them's a rat. It's Rocket Raccoon. And like the next one, it's dancing with somebody out on the dance floor, and you don't even realize that the character it's dancing with is part of their team, right? It kind of threw you off. But then you get the introduction a little later on. And the way that this read really confused me. I was like, this doesn't read smooth, or it doesn't transition well. Basically, a team is being hired by a robot to go to a world that is not connected to this kind of star direct flight thing where you can go faster than light, like space. Think of the Speed Force, right? You get to travel really fast in between parts of space. It's never been there before, so this is a great opportunity for people to be the first ones there until it does get connected so you can ship things to it. So, right, you see the Prophet. It's in this. And then there's somebody else that the robot tried to talk to about it, but nah, he changed his mind, went with these people, so now they want to kill those people, and it turns into a thing. One of the bad guy characters dies in it, and the relentlessness of its sidekick, if you will, is... Again, this is another thing that was just extremely choppy. Like, they left before, but it, like, met them outside and was able to shoot at them in their spaceships. And I'm like, that's just, right? So I'm like, I'm missing something here. So I looked it up, and come to find out, this is actually an RPG game, right? It's a game, a tabletop type game, and that all of a sudden made sense to me because if you play these kind of games like Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, your scenes and everything's kind of choppy and abrupt as you play the game and work through it. So I guess it made sense for that, but that doesn't mean that it had to be that, right? So I was a little lost on that. So that's it. That's my comic book haul and review this week. Let's see. I'm going to have another video coming out in the next couple of days. Rob's Fat Stacks. I won something from the chat in there, and I picked up some monster covers that I want to share with Smolder monster covers that I want to share with you as well. So definitely, if you haven't had the opportunity yet, hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. That video should be out soon, and I want you to be able to watch it. I think you're going to see some pretty cool covers in this one. I'm pretty proud of it. So definitely. Other than that, I gotta cut grass. So I'll talk to you all later. Bye.